To put an end to the harassment, I decided to confront the bully's father myself. I expected anger, denial, maybe even a fight. What I didn't expect was for this stranger to look at my son's scars and quietly say, "I know those scars." I had no idea who this man really was. Before we begin, let me ask you, have you ever discovered an unexpected connection with someone that completely shifted your perspective? Share your experience in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about resilience, second chances, and the power of human connection. Now let me take you back to the moment when my son's scars revealed a truth that would change both of our lives forever. I'd been a single father for 5 years, ever since an apartment fire claimed my wife Hannah's life and left my 3-year-old son Ethan with burns covering 30% of his body. His physical scars healed as much as they could, but the emotional ones, for both of us, remained fresh. Ethan was 8 now, a bright, sensitive child who loved dinosaurs and Legos. He was remarkably resilient, adapting to life with his scars better than I ever thought possible. But that strength was tested at his new school in ways that broke my heart. We'd moved districts because of my job promotion, which required a longer commute but placed us in what was supposed to be a better school system. What I hadn't expected was how cruel children could be to someone who looked different. It began subtly: whispers, stares, kids refusing to sit near him at lunch. But it escalated when one boy, Tyler Thompson, made it his mission to torment Ethan. One evening, while I helped with homework, Ethan suddenly asked, "Dad, am I a monster?" That question felt like a punch to the chest. "What do you mean, buddy?" I asked. "Tyler says, I look like a monster because of my arms. He says that's why Mom died, because monsters don't have normal families." Rage welled up inside me, the kind only a parent can feel. I knelt to his level. "Ethan, listen to me. You are not a monster. You are brave, kind, smart, and the best son any dad could ask for. Those scars don't make you less. They show you're a survivor, stronger than anything life throws at you." "Then why does Tyler say that?" Ethan asked. "Because some people don't understand that different doesn't mean less. When people don't understand, they get scared. And sometimes scared people say cruel things." But my reassurances couldn't stop what was happening at school. Tyler's bullying worsened. He convinced others to avoid Ethan, calling him the burned kid and even spreading rumors that his scars were contagious. Ethan's nightmares returned, something that hadn't happened in over a year. He begged me not to send him back to school. I first approached the school. Ethan's teacher, Mrs. Alvarez, was sympathetic but overwhelmed. "Mr. Walsh, ISEP's spoken to Tyler several times. ISEP's also reached out to his parents. But bullying is complicated. And Tyler is he's facing some challenges at home." "What kind of challenges?" I asked. "I can share details," she replied. "But his family situation is difficult. His father is struggling with personal issues." Next, I met with the principal, Dr. Norris, who relied on educational jargon about restorative justice and conflict resolution. "We are launching a comprehensive anti-bullying program," she assured me. "Tyler will join peer mediation sessions, and we still host an assembly on acceptance and inclusion." But weeks passed with no real change. If anything, Tyler grew bolder. The breaking point came when Ethan returned home with his favorite dinosaur t-shirt torn. "Tyler grabbed it at recess," Ethan explained, holding back tears. "He said monsters don't deserve nice things." That night, after Ethan fell asleep, I made a decision. The school wasn't protecting him. I would confront Tyler's parents myself. I found their address in the school directory and drove over on a Saturday morning. Their modest home had an unkempt yard, peeling paint, a pickup truck in the driveway, and a motorcycle under a tarp in the garage. My heart pounded with anger and resolve as I knocked. I had practiced what to say. I'd explain how their son was tormenting mine, that they needed to take responsibility, and that it had to stop. The door opened to a man in his early 40s, tall with graying hair and tired eyes. His hands and forearms carried faint scars. He moved with the careful precision of someone who had learned to live with old injuries. "Can I help you?" he asked cautiously. "Are you Tyler Thompson Sepp's father?" I said. "I am, Gene Thompson. And you are?" "Jeremy Walsh. My son Ethan is in Tyler Sepp's class." Recognition flickered across his face, followed by a look of resignation. "Ah," he said softly, stepping back. "I think I know why you stibber here. Please, come in." Inside, the house was modest but tidy, furnished more for function than style. Family photos lined the mantel, but in the newer ones, Tyler was pictured only with his father, his mother absent. "Coffee," Gene offered. "This isn't set a social call," I said firmly. "Your son has been bullying mine for weeks. He Sepp's making Ethan Sepp's life miserable, and the school isn't set to doing anything to stop it." Gene Sepp's shoulders sank. "I know," he admitted quietly. "I Sepp been trying to work with Tyler, but he Sepp's angry. Lately, more than ever. We had both been going through difficult times, but that doesn't give your son the right to torment other children," I said firmly, my voice rising. "Do you know what he's been telling my son? He calls him a monster because of his scars. He even says that's why his mother died." Gene Sepp's face drained of color. "He said that." "You heard me. Your son is psychologically torturing an 8-year-old child for looking different." "Mr. Walsh, I am truly sorry," Gene said quickly. "I had no idea Tyler was saying things like that. I knew there had been issues at school, but his teacher only told me he was being unkind to another student. Not this. This is unacceptable. I deal with Tyler immediately." "It's Sepp's gone beyond just discipline," I replied. "My son is afraid to go to school. He Sepp's having nightmares again. He thinks he Sepp's a monster because of what your son keeps telling him." Gene paused suddenly, his voice shifting. "Scars? You mentioned scars. What kind of scars?" The question caught me off guard. "Burn scars, on his arms and part of his chest. He was in a fire when he was 3. Jen went still, his expression pale and shaken. Would you let me see them? The scars." "Why?" I asked cautiously. "What difference would it make?" "Please," Gene said, his tone urgent. "I need to see them." Something in his voice made me hesitate. I pulled up a photo on my phone. Ethan at the beach, his scars visible across his arms and shoulder. Gene stared at the screen for a long moment. His hands began to tremble. "Oh my God," he whispered. "I know those scars." "What do you mean you know them?" I asked. Gene looked up at me, eyes filled with deep pain. "Mr. Walsh, what was your wife Sepp's name?" "Hannah. Hannah Walsh." "Why?" "And the fire 5 years ago. The apartment building on George Street?" My blood ran cold. "How do you know that?" Gene sat heavily in his chair, burying his face in his hands. "Because I was there. I was the firefighter who pulled your son out of that building." The room seemed to tilt. I stared at him, trying to process his words. "That's Sepp's impossible. The firefighter who saved Ethan. His name was Thompson. Eugene Thompson," he said quietly. "Gene is short for Eugene." I felt sick. You stir him. You stir the firefighter who saved my son." Gene nodded slowly. "Yes, and the one who couldn't save your wife." The silence was heavy. Suddenly his tired eyes, the scars on his hands, the missing mother in the photos, all of it made sense. "You were injured in the fire," I said, recalling what the fire chief had told me, that the rescuer had been hurt when part of the ceiling collapsed. Gene nodded, rolling up his sleeves to show extensive scars. "My left shoulder was crushed. 3 ribs broken. Second-degree burns on my arms and back. But that wasn't Sept the worst part. What was? I asked. The worst was knowing I could only go up those stairs once. I had to choose. I could save your son, or try for your wife. I couldn't do both. Tears filled my eyes, but not from anger. This time from recognition and grief. You saved my son, I said quietly. And I couldn't save your wife. I carried that with me every day. I made a choice, and because of it, a woman died and a boy grew up without his mother. No, I told him firmly. You didn't make a choice. You made the only choice possible. My wife was already unconscious from smoke inhalation when you arrived. The fire chief told me afterward. She wouldn't have survived even if you had reached her first. Ethan was still conscious, still fighting. You saved the one life that could be saved. Jean looked up in disbelief. You don't blame me? Blame you? Jean. I spent 5 years grateful to a firefighter named Eugene Thompson, who risked his life to save my son. I never thought I get to thank him in person. We sat in silence, both of us trying to absorb the strange, impossible coincidence that had brought us together. Is that why you left the fire department? I asked eventually. Jean nodded. My injuries healed, but emotionally, I couldn't go back. I started drinking, had panic attacks every time the alarm rang. I couldn't trust myself with lives anymore. And 2 years ago, Tyler's mother left, said she couldn't live with a broken man. Tyler blames me for her leaving. He's been angry ever since. Acting out at school, getting into fights. I've tried to help him, but I can barely keep myself together. So he's been taking it out on other kids, I said. Jean lowered his eyes, and I am ashamed to admit I didn't realize how serious it had become. Mr. Walsh, I am so sorry, not just for Tyler Sip's behavior, but for everything, for not saving your wife, for the pain you and your son have endured. I stood and looked him in the eye. Jean, you have nothing to apologize for. You are a hero. You saved my son Sep's life, and you nearly died doing it. The fact that Tyler has been cruel doesn't change that. But Tyler doesn't know, Jean said quietly. He doesn't know about the fire, about your son. He just sees a kid with scars, and he's been cruel. Then maybe it's time he learns the truth? I replied. Jean was silent for a moment, before nodding. You right. Tyler needs to understand what courage really looks like, and what consequences come from his actions. Where is he now? In his room. He's been grounded for a week, because of a fight at school. Would you be willing to stay while I talk to him? I think he needs to hear this story. And I think he needs to meet the boy whose life I saved. Ethan isn't with me today. He at his grandmother That's all right. Tyler needs to hear it first. Then maybe we can arrange for the boys to meet properly. Jean called Tyler downstairs, and I watched as a quiet, tense boy of about 8 entered the room. He had his father's dark hair and the same weary eyes, but there was a sharpness in his expression that came from pain he didn't yet understand. Tyler, Jean said gently, but firmly, this is Mr. Walsh. He's Ethan's father. Tyler immediately stiffened. I didn't do anything. Sit down, son. We need to talk. For the next hour, Jean told Tyler the story of the fire. He explained his job as a firefighter, and how, on that day, he had to choose between saving a woman or a child. He carried a 3-year-old boy out of a burning building and nearly lost his own life in the process. That little boy, Jean said, was Ethan, the one you've been calling a monster. Tyler's face drained of color. Ethan's scars are proof. He survived something that should have killed him, Jean continued. They show that he's stronger and braver than many adults I know. Tyler's voice faltered. But I called him. You called him a monster, Jean said quietly. You tormented a child who already lost his mother and nearly his life. Tears spilled from Tyler Sepp's eyes, not angry tears, but the heavy sobs of a boy realizing the harm he had done. "Tom, sorry. I didn't Sepp know." "I know you didn't Stet," Jean said, pulling him close. "But not knowing is Stet an excuse. We don't Stet get to hurt others just because we don't Stet understand their story. Can I tell him I Sip sorry?" I finally spoke up. "Tyler, I think Ethan would like that. But more than an apology, I think he Sept want a friend. Someone who sees him as he is. A kind, brave, smart boy who happens to have scars." Tyler nodded quickly. "I want to be his friend. I want to make up for it." The following Monday, I walked Ethan to school myself. He held my hand tightly. "Dad, what if Tyler is mean to me again?" "I don't think he will be, buddy. But if he is, you come find me right away." At the entrance, Tyler appeared with his father behind him. Ethan didn't know we'd planned this meeting. Tyler stepped forward, serious but calm. "Ethan, I sits peem Tyler, I sits peem sorry. I was mean to you. I called you names and made you feel bad about your scars. But I didn't sits know. I didn't sits know you were a hero." "A hero?" Ethan asked, confused. "My dad told me about the fire, how he saved you when you were little. He said, your scars aren't Sept ugly, they Sepper proof that you Sept the bravest person he Sept's ever met." Ethan Sepp's eyes widened as he looked at Jean. "You stir the firefighter, the one who carried me out." Jean knelt down, eyes shining. "I am, and I Sepp thought about you every day for 5 years, hoping you were okay, hoping you were happy." "I remember someone holding me," Ethan said softly. "Someone telling me I Stet be okay. Was that you?" "That was me," Jean said with emotion. "And you were more than okay. You grew into an amazing, brave boy." Tyler stepped forward again. "Ethan, I was mean because I was angry about other things. I took it out on you, and that was wrong. Can you forgive me?" Ethan hesitated, then glanced at me. "My dad says forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves." "That's Sepp's right, buddy," I said. "Okay," Ethan told Tyler. "I forgive you, but you have to promise not to be mean to other kids who look different." "I promise," Tyler said firmly. "Can we be friends? I could show you my Lego collection. Your dad said you like building things." For the first time in weeks, Ethan Sepp's face lit up. "You have Legos? What kind?" "All kinds, dinosaurs, even the Millennium Falcon." The two boys quickly launched into an excited conversation as Jean and I stepped aside. "Thank you," Jean said quietly, "for letting Tyler apologize, for giving me this chance." "There's steps nothing to forgive," I said, "but I do have a request. Ethan has been asking more questions about the fire, about his mother, about that day. I think it might help if he hears the story from you, when the time is right." Jean nodded. "It would be an honor. How about this weekend? You and Tyler could come for dinner. Ethan could show him his dinosaurs, and afterward you could tell the parts of the story he Sepp's ready to hear." He stayed like that. That Saturday, Jean and Tyler came over for the first time in months. Ethan laughed freely. The boys bonded over dinosaurs and Legos, and Tyler proved himself to be kind once he understood instead of judged. After dinner, while they played, Jean told Ethan the story of the fire, age-appropriate, focusing on bravery, safety, and resilience. "Were you scared?" Ethan asked. "I was," Jean admitted. "But being scared doesn't mean you are not brave. Bravery is doing the right thing, even when you are afraid." "Is that why you saved me?" "Yes," Jean said simply. "Because protecting people is what we do, and you were worth protecting." Ethan was quiet, then rolled up his sleeve. "Do my scars look different now?" Jean studied them. "They still healed beautifully, but when I look at them, I see proof that you are a fighter. They are not just scars, they are your battle marks. and they show you one. From that moment, things changed. Tyler became Ethan's closest friend and defender at school. When kids asked about his scars, Tyler would explain that Ethan was a fire survivor, a real hero. Gene and I built an unlikely friendship. He began therapy, attended AA meetings, and found his footing again. 6 months later, he was sober and working as a fire safety instructor, teaching children about prevention and courage. Tyler transformed too, shifting from anger to empathy, standing up for others instead of tearing them down. One evening, as we watched the boys playing, Gene said, "For years, I thought I failed that day, that I hadn't done enough. But now I realize saving Ethan wasn't just about that moment. It gave him the chance to grow into who he is, and it gave you the chance to raise an incredible son. The impact is still spreading. Look at Tyler, he's learning compassion and courage because of Ethan's example." I watched the boys build Legos side by side, their bond undeniable. "You steer right," I said. Ethan Sepp's scars used to make him feel ashamed. Now they steer his strength. And Tyler has learned that true strength means lifting others, not pushing them down. A year later, Gene was back to full-time work as a fire safety coordinator. Tyler and Ethan were inseparable best friends, and I realized that sometimes the most unexpected connections become the most important relationships in our lives. The scars that once isolated Ethan had become the bridge that connected us to people who understood. Gene saved Ethan's life years ago, but in many ways, Ethan helped save Gene's too, by showing him that his actions had mattered, that he was still a hero. Sometimes, I think about how different things would have been if I hadn't confronted Tyler's father, if I had just accepted the school's weak response, or moved Ethan again. But I'm grateful I chose to fight for my son, because in fighting for him, we found more than safety. We found community, friendship, and healing. Ethan's scars will always be part of his story, but now, instead of being a mark of shame, they're proof of survival, courage, and connection. They remind us that our deepest wounds can lead to our greatest strengths, and that those who understand our pain are often the ones who help us heal. An extraordinary story of how pain can transform into healing, and how scars can connect us to others in ways we never expect. What do you think of Gene's transformation from carrying guilt to finding purpose again? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, please like the video, subscribe for more inspiring stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.